So today's video has been requested by one of our long-term viewers on presentation, plating up. How do you plate up your dishes? Do you just bang it all on and send it out? No, there are a few tips and tricks that you should know when it comes to plating up food, from the plate choices to the type of ingredient to how it eats, because after all, presentation is a very important part of the dish because you eat with your eyes. So you want to make sure visually that it looks good. So I'm going to run you through a few little secrets that I've developed along the years in pro kitchens to really kind of elevate those dishes and get you thinking a little bit differently. So let's get plating up. So when it comes to plating up your dishes, you want to consider the type of bowl or plate that you need for each ingredient or dish. Different color plates are going to have different purposes as well. More on that later. Using bowls is also a great way to change the presentation of a dish. Now, you're going to need certain color plates to make your purees pop. Now, we've got some celeriac puree here. I've put it on a white plate. Does it pop? Not so much. Let's put it on a kind of gray blue. Not bad. Nice little pop there. But look how much it shines and pops on this black plate. You really get that contrast of colors. So it's really important you get the right color plate for the right type of color of ingredient or puree. Now, we can also manipulate the presentation by adding a swoosh. Put a blob down of the puree, take the tip of the spoon, and in one motion, just drag it like that in any direction, and that creates a nice little swoosh that you can put on any part of the plate. We can also follow the curvature of the plate as well and create a bigger swoosh. So put a little bit down like this, take the tip of your knife, and in one pass, just like that, we've created this lovely curve of puree. So we can highlight that on a plate with other different ingredients. We can also put it in a squeezy bottle and put some nice blobs, from big ones to small ones. You can mix it up. Pro tip, uneven numbers look better. Now, I'm kind of creating like a straight line of puree, but on one side of the plate specifically for a reason. Now, I'm going to make it a bit more dramatic. I'm going to do some little swooshes with an offset spatula. Now, if you count up, we're at 7. So I can go and do one more swoosh the other way just to add a bit more dramaticness to the plate. Now we've got some asparagus that we're going to plate up, but where do we put it? Do we put it on top of everything and kind of kill that presentation? Do we put it on the other side? Now, if you look at the type of vegetable asparagus is, it's a long spear, so you're going to be following this vegetable. So if I put it this way, your eye naturally is going to follow the shape of the veg. And because of the way I've put the puree, your eye is drawn to that side of the plate. So I can manipulate this dish on this plate and create some negative space. I can either draw your eye going forwards, off to the right, off to the left, but I'm going to go this way in between, so I still keep that dramatic presentation and your eye is naturally following this path. The second piece of asparagus we're going to put on top to create a bit of height, just so it's sat down like this. This kind of adds a bit more drama to the plate, makes it a little bit more elegant. Now we're going to cut our third piece at an angle into little pieces roughly the same size. So rather than cutting into whole pieces of asparagus, you've got these little pieces that you can kind of have. It really changes the eating experience of the dish. We can put these around the puree so we don't disturb that kind of dramatic presentation. Put it down nicely so it's all keeping to one side of the plate and we've got that negative space on the other side. So your eye is naturally drawn to that side. Now I'm going to grate some cheddar, but I'm not going to go all over the plate. I'm just going to put some on the kind of bottom parts of the asparagus. I want the tips to be exposed so that you can kind of still see what the vegetable is. So I'm pretty happy with that amount of cheese. I don't want too much of it. Now I need a garnish. So I'm thinking some rocket here, some arugula, and some parsley that are just roughly dressed up. Now just put this randomly kind of on the plate, but put it in between certain parts of the puree, just to kind of make it a little bit more delicate, a little bit more elegant. You don't want too much, just a little bit. If the leaf is a little bit too big, just break a little bit off so it fits on the plate and everything's in the right proportion. We can just put it over that cut up piece of asparagus. Now you can see it's pretty dainty, pretty elegant. You've got negative space. But sometimes when it comes to garnishing, you can add the wrong thing. Too many cooks and chefs will just put on something that looks good but has no relevance or flavor on the plate. Take these cut up radishes. They look good, they're super thin, delicious, but they're way too peppery for this dish. They're going to destroy the delicate puree and that asparagus. Might look good on the gram, but no, son, get it off the plate. So sometimes less is more, my friends. So you need to learn that restraint through taste and flavor. Classic combinations are there for a reason. So we're going to have a runny egg that we're just going to put on the plate as well. We're going to put this on the other side of the plate where we've got that negative space, so it kind of looks quite nice and elegant, but it's defined in its own area. Then we're going to add the other half of the egg down here, so you've kind of got this parallel line of the egg running to the other side of the plate. Now we can scrape off some of that runny yolk because we want a nice clean finish. So don't be afraid to manipulate the ingredient once it's there on the plate.
Add a little bit of salt and pepper just on the egg yolk. That kind of gives you a nice little pop when you're eating it. Now, if you look at that, that's a very elegant, nice, simple way to plate up some asparagus and eggs. You can see it's elegant, the eyes drawn in a certain direction, and it looks absolutely delicious. But look what happens when we take away half an egg. Okay, so we're going to clean that plate up. And now all of a sudden we've created this negative space on the other side and a real elegant finish again. So sometimes you might not need to put the whole ingredient on the plate. So as this is presented, your eye is going to go to that egg first, and you got all the negative side of the plate there. So it's a really elegant finish. So whichever way you put this down for the diner, your eye is going to go in that direction and you're going to have a great presentation. But I'm going to put it down this way, so everything's kind of like at the bottom. So you can see it's really nice that asparagus is going in that direction, and that's the way your eye is going to flow. And that makes the eating very pleasurable because you've got all these different little bits. I can cut up a bit of the egg, have some of the puree. I've got a nice bit of asparagus there, a bit more puree on top, and bosh. Very nice indeed. I can just work my way around the plate rather than just having it sat there. And I'm telling you now, that's absolutely delicious. So we're going to plate up a tomato salad 2 different ways. Okay, so we've got a tomato here. This one's ripe. So how do you prep everything? So start thinking about that. I'm going to cut out that little kind of core there just for presentation, because you don't really want to eat that or see that. And these little baby ones, we're just going to cut in half so you can expose the tomato. This big one's really ripe, so I'm just going to kind of slice it into some kind of uneven slices. Doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. I'll show you why. And you don't need the top bits. Save them for something else. Okay, tomatoes are all there set aside. Always season the tomatoes before they go on the plate, because you'll get a lot of flavor out them and the juices will kind of have time to kind of leach out. Now we're just going to put these in a rough kind of circle, overlapping each other using an offset spatula. If you've got one that isn't perfectly cut like that one, you can just lift up your tomato, slide it in, and the outside edge makes it look like it's all perfectly round. So that's a nice little way to kind of get around it. Now we really want to highlight these tomatoes because they're so colorful and so vibrant. So we're just going to put them cut side up and alternate the colors all around the plate. But you see how I'm keeping everything tight and centralized, so your eye is drawn into that and you've got this negative space all the way around the plate. So we're going to put some arugula around on top of these tomatoes. You can use whatever herbs you've got. We're not going to put it on the negative space areas. We're going to intentionally put this over the tomatoes. What we're kind of going for is this kind of like organic feel, like they've just been placed there organically but intentionally as well. We can even lift some of the tomato up and put some underneath like this, kind of creating the leaves of a tomato when you pick it out fresh from the garden. Now that looks really nice. It's tight, centralized. So what else can we do with this? We're going to get some Parmesan cheese and we're going to get a peeler. And by peeling some slices, you make the cheese look that much more elegant rather than just grated everywhere. Put some pieces that go up, some that kind of go vertically, horizontally, and it creates a really nice, elegant presentation. Now you could add oil to this, a vinaigrette, anything, but just take a look at how simple this is and what kind of an effect and elegance you can get just from a couple of ingredients. Now we're going to take off the cheese and we're going to get all those ingredients, put them in a bowl. We're going to add in some more arugula, give that a nice little bit of seasoning, a little bit of olive oil. And what we're going to do is we're going to mix this around and we're going to plate this up like another version of a tomato rocket salad, like as if you were to get a side dish at like a pizza restaurant or something. Now we're going to put a couple of slices of tomato in the bowl to create a base, which will give you some height. Work the arugula around into like a little ball, manipulate it, gently pick it up, put it into the middle of the plate. And what we're doing is we're building height for this salad. We're not just banging everything in. Put your tomatoes all the way around. We'll add a little piece on the top and then we'll add a little bit more arugula on top as well. And what you're doing is you're creating this like nice little mound. It looks way more appetizing. Take the Parmesan cheese and put it so it's kind of running upwards vertically. And you can just see the height created from this salad now. So the same ingredients pretty much as we had before, but completely different presentation, rustic and delicious. Now we're going to do a main course. We're going to use a pastry cutter, like a cookie cutter. Put this into the middle of the plate, hold it firm and put in some mashed potato. That's what we're going to use here. I'm just going to half fill it and smooth it out with the back of a spoon. Push the mashed potato all the way to the edges of the pastry ring. Get it nice and smooth on top. Then I'm going to add in about 2 spoons of ratatouille that I'd made previously. Get that in there, gently push it down. And if you've got an offset spatula, use that just to make sure everything's nicely pushed down. We don't want it to go all the way up to the top. Now, look at this. We can just gently lift this up and we have a dramatic presentation right there. Everything holds its shape quite nicely when I put this piece of salmon on top. Nothing's going to collapse. I'm going to finish it with a lovely green herb sauce, kind of like a velouté with tons of herbs that I've just made. Now you can see, because I've chose a white plate, the ratatouille, the green sauce, the crispy salmon, it's all gonna pop. Even the mashed potato, because it's lost on the white plate, but when I put it with the green sauce, it really kind of highlights and pops the contrast of the colors. If I leave one half of the plate dressed like that, that looks pretty elegant, but I'm gonna fill in the other side of the plate. Use the saucepan, pour the sauce in directly, and then what you can do is you just tilt your plate left to right, give it a little round little circle like this, and it will naturally fill in all those areas. So every single part and element of ingredient on that plate is popping, from the green to the ratatouille to the crispy salmon, all off that white plate. Finish it with a little drizzle of olive oil, and it's a very old school bistro style presentation, but my God, does it look elegant. So you can really see how that pastry ring and white plate has really elevated the salmon, the mash, the ratatouille, and that green sauce. Oh, look at that. Plenty of luxury indeed, my friends.
Proper old school, this one. As you can see, we've got this plated up. It looks really clean, refined, more kind of like bistro presentation, but that is super, super cool. Really nice. I like all the different kind of like layers you get with it, the sauce. You can kind of really see the dish. Super cool. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight into plating up, the different types of plates you need to use, how you need to respect each ingredient differently, whether you want height on a dish or whether you just want it to be a little bit flat, elegant, rustic. There's different ways to approach it. Effectively, it should be your philosophy on a plate. And it says a lot about you as a home cook, as a chef, of whether you're generous on the plate, whether you're refined, whether you're meticulous. So have a go. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Just trust yourself, trust your instincts, and see if you can develop it and get a better style as you go so that people know what your dishes look like before they've even eaten them. Okay, my friends, as always, if you enjoy this kind of video and content, please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all on the next one. Time to enjoy this for lunch. Woo. Cheers.